Fisherman's Post. More fish, more often.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series. This episode is titled The Spring Transition from Bonito to Spanish. And my guest is Captain Jason Temple of Alley Cat Sport Fishing out of the Morehead City, Atlantic Beach area. And we'll be covering such areas as trolling, casting, and live bait options. And then we'll be looking at the three primary target areas, beach, inlets, and ARs. My name is Gary Hurley of Fisherman's Post, and Fisherman's Post has been serving the saltwater fishing community of North Carolina since 2003. We've been bringing you fishing reports, fishing tournaments, fishing schools. What else do I got here? Membership content, fishing reports, and now the popular Saltwater Podcast Series, where we reach out to our captain and guide friends from up and down the North Carolina coast and ask with them to share with us their insights, their thoughts on how to catch more fish more often. And in this podcast endeavor, I'm joined by my podcast co-host, David Harden of Harden Creative Media.
Hello, Gary.
Hello, David.
What is going on?
Man, Bonito are in the air, and
Bonito.
we got a Bonito guest tonight, and
Not to be confused with bonita.
no,
It's a different thing.
definitely
A different
thing.
fish, a different experience in eating them too, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's probably the biggest difference, man, is in eating them. And please, if you're listening to this, please reach out and tell us that you eat bonita and you think it's good. We really want to hear from you, those people that say bonita is good. Please.
Let's get right to it. Let's thank our sponsors.
Yeah, man.
Port City Signs and Graphics. Sabrina and the crew doing great work all over the area.
Man, I've been keeping them busy. Again, they are the sign company of Fisherman's Post. And we haven't been doing too many signs, but we've been doing a lot of banners. And it's not just new banners, but patching banners. I mean, they are business-minded. And I think that's what I most want to get out. I mean, they'll wrap your boat. They'll wrap your vans. They'll wrap your cars. They'll do all that work. But, you know, if you are a business owner, then you would benefit from a relationship with Sabrina and crew at Port City Signs.
Right on. Let's take a look at a couple signs, Gary. I'm going to show you two signs.
Okay?
You pick the one that was made by Port City Signs and Graphics.
I'm good at this game.
Here's sign number one. Past, present, and future walked into a bar. It was tense.
Man, that's good.
That was like an English. That was the one for your
Man,
English.
that's right up my alley.
It is. It is. It is. Okay, sign number two. We have I believe this is a double-sided illuminated sign for Airy, which I believe they're fairly new to the area.
Yeah, I think they went into Mayfair, man. I dig it, man. I dig the green and white contrast. I dig whatever they got going on there.
And it lights up.
It has pop.
It's cool.
You know, they work with business owners. They're great. I mean, I'm next on the list. I'm getting some feather flags from them, just to let you know, man. They have a wide offering.
Cool. Next up, we have yourboatmoney.com.
Oh, yeah. Friend Scott Bradshaw and New Coast, yourboatmoney.com. Man, friend of the Fisherman's Post, friend of the podcast. They just had well, not just, but they had a topsail event, a big event. Couldn't make it there, but man, he's doing great things. And spring is in the air, man, and people are buying boats, people are selling boats. And if you're even thinking about buying a boat, man, a relationship with Scott Bradshaw, you can look back at his winter podcast where he talks about everything marine financing, and he is as legit as it comes. He's a great dude, great for providing information, and there's no way you can't benefit from a relationship with Scott Bradshaw.
Another place you can buy a boat is Marine Warehouse Center.
Yeah, you can definitely buy a boat at Marine Warehouse Center.
Matt with Marine Warehouse, excited to give you guys a huge update. We're now carrying Seabourn and Spider boat line. Of course, we have the newest models of Carolina Skiff, Sailfish, Sea Chaser, and Pan Marine. With over 60 boats in stock at a Wilmington location, let's schedule a sea trial and let's get you on the water today.
A rockin' theme song.
Man, I'm a fan of those guys. I tell you, the Fish Post boat is in the water. It's been working great. I've had it out I've caught Bonito from my boat already this year. The boat's running great, man. Those guys are solid. I even had a great conversation with Joel, service manager, about making sure I have the right pitch prop on my boat. And we're looking at that. Man, they're just helpful dudes, man. And whether it's again, what I try to brand there is parts, sales, and service. again, we are in the relationship business, as is Marine Warehouse Center.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. And then, you can always ask Terrell to tell you your own personalized joke. Maybe that should be what I start saying. It's like, stop in and see Terrell and ask for your own personalized joke experience.
Personalized joke experience.
And then you call me and tell me what joke Terrell told you, so Terrell doesn't have to call me all the time. I'm guessing you want to hear, right?
I've been waiting the
that's what we
entire
do
time.
this time.
I've been looking forward all day.
We want to manage expectations.
Okay.
So don't have big expectations for this one.
I'm lowering.
Terrell's joke, not mine.
Gotcha.
What do you call a factory that just makes okay products?
A factory that makes just okay products. I do not know.
You call it a satisfactory.
Rich.
I hung right up on it. I hung up.
You
on
hung
it.
up.
I said, "You're wasting my time, Terrell. Do better." I said, "Do better next podcast."
Poor Terrell. No respect.
So I expect him to do better next time.
No respect.
Well, hell, listen, if you are a fan of the podcast and you think to yourself you want more podcasts, then please think about becoming a Fisherman's Post premium content member. Not only do you get early access to all our podcasts, not only do you get exclusive access to our bonus podcast content, but you also get access to weekly fishing reports from up and down the North Carolina coast. And again, those are 11 or 12, sometimes 13 captains saying what's happening and what the best play is for that weekend, the weekend or best play. And all that for being a premium content membership and your support in the podcast.
It's a bargain.
It is a bargain. And right now, David, I'm going to bring up Jason. I'm looking forward to talking to him. This is one of my favorite species. But before I do, a reminder, David's best takeaways. So I believe you've caught both a Bonito and a Bonita. I believe that's true.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm expecting you to have an insightful David's best takeaway. Not
okay.
surface best takeaway, but an insightful best takeaway.
All right. I'll put my thinking cap on.
All right, so it is now my pleasure to introduce to you Captain Jason Temple of Alley Cat Sport Fishing out of the Moorhead, Atlantic Beach area. David, we're going to do this episode titled Spring Transition from Bonito to Spanish. So the Bonito are still there, Spanish are coming in, and I'm excited, man. Excited to talk to you. Thanks for being a podcast guest.
Oh, man, thank y'all.
Well, even though you took me bottom fish and put me on a great trip, and even though you're here with us tonight, no one gets on the podcast without answering two questions. And so, Jason, you tell me you're ready. I give you question number one.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. Question number one, why should anyone listen to anything you have to say about a Bonito or a Spanish for that matter?
I don't know. We catch them pretty well. I mean, I've been catching them pretty much my whole life. I'm from Virginia, and we don't catch them down there like you do in Carolina, but I learned how to catch them down there in the Chesapeake, and it's a little bit different fishing, but not totally different. And then I fished Hatteras for so long, and now I've been in Moorhead this will be our third year here in Moorhead, and we definitely don't have it all figured out, but we've got it pretty good. I grew up fishing on a center console, and that's how we developed our way of fishing for them. And now, sometimes we're on the bigger boat. We've got a couple Bertram sport fishers that we run our trips on, and we still have the two center consoles as well. And we've got a pretty good technique that works for anywhere from a small boat like a Carolina, like a skiff or a bay boat, to a bigger center console all the way up to sport fishers. We've got a decent technique for all three different ways of fishing for them.
All right. That passes through. You now qualify for question number two.
All right.
And this is a non-fishing question. So you tell me you're ready for question two. I got question two.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, man. So you're going to get a series of true false. I think I got 3 true false questions, and they're all about cats because of Alley Cat Sport Fishing. So let's see what you know about cats. You ready?
I'm ready.
True false. Cats are nearsighted.
Oh, man. True.
You're right. Cats are nearsighted. True false. Female cats have the ability to get pregnant when they are only 3 months old.
True.
No, false.
False.
But you're close. It's 4 months. See what I did there? I took 4 months and made it 3 months. Last true false, and then we're talking fishing. The typical cat has 18 toes.
I'm going to say false.
It's true. 5 up front, 4 in the back. Typical. Of course, there's variations. All right, enough about cats. Let's start talking to Jason Temple of Alley Cat Sport Fishing about bonita in Spanish. So again, with the timing of the release of this podcast, what my thought was is like, hey, this is going to be the time of year where people can still catch bonita, but the Spanish have certainly moved in, and it's no longer just the Bonito show. We got Spanish here. That's basically the time frame that we're releasing this thing. So with that being said, with that sort of setup, I guess we're going to talk about, I'll let you lead. So when you're heading out the inlet and it's that time frame, well, I guess I'd first ask you, like, when do the Bonita show? When do they leave? How long do they sort of cohabitate with Spanish? Like every year being different, but what kind of guidance can you give us?
It's probably going to be more of the water temperature. This year they showed up pretty early. We're in Moorhead now. I know a lot of your guys are from Wilmington, and obviously they show up there before here. But we started catching them the last week in March this year. Last year, I only know this because I go back through my phone every year and look when we catch stuff. But we didn't catch our first one until April 8th last year, and this year we caught them March 20th, 21st, something like that. When those fish first get here, they're going to be on the ARs. For us down in Beaufort, it's going to be 315 and 320, 330. Until that water warms up and gets up to, maybe 62 to 64, they're going to kind of stay right there on those reefs. As the water warms up, they're going to, expand. They'll move on into the beach or up on the shoals. And when they first get here, they're kind of easier to catch because they'll hit anything really. You can pull spoons, or you can pull deep divers, or even those little shallow baits. Then as they get the pressure put on, well, and also when they're busting, you can cast to them. That's probably our favorite way to catch them, just casting metal to them or throwing top water at them. As the pressure builds up on them from all the other boats, because once they get here and the word gets out, every boat is going to be on those artificial reefs, especially on the weekends, especially if it's a nice weekend. Then they start getting real picky. Then you got to catch them early in the morning or late in the evening. And then when the bait gets here, which our bait just showed up on Sunday, and today's the 17th, so it was, what would that have been? I guess the 13th. The live bait just showed up here Sunday afternoon. Now that the bait gets on those reefs, they're really not going to respond that well to trolling or casting to them, other than first light and late in the evening. Then it'll kind of turn into a live bait thing. Once the guys get out there with the live bait, if you don't have it, you're just wasting time. I mean, just go in the inlet and hope the Spanish showed up, or go catch some bluefish or something, because the Bonito are not going to bite anything trolled or metal thrown at them when every other boat out there is giving them live pogies to eat. The ARs are probably, I would imagine they're loaded with greenies right now. We call them greenies. I guess it's a greenback shad, or I think that's the name of it, a greenback shad. Once they get on those reefs, they're just not going to eat anything other than live bait, other than, like I said, first thing in the morning or late in the evening.
All right. So I like that setup. So I'm going to focus more on the tail end of the Bonita season. So, we're projecting ahead a little bit when it is harder to catch them. And that was my vision, like harder to find them and harder to catch them. So even with the live bait, if you're out there early enough or late enough, you still have a shot at deep diver, Clark spoon, throwing metal?
Yeah, I would do it first thing or late. Now this is going to come out at the end of April. The water should probably be about 67, maybe 68 when this podcast releases. Our Spanish should be here, or should be showing up. And if you're fishing for your Spanish, right on the beach or up on the shoals or something like that, the Bonito will get mixed in there with them. It's not going to be, the really big ones are going to be on the reefs and they're going to eat live bait. But as you're Spanish fishing, as that water moves up, those Bonito will kind of disperse. I mean, they hung around last year. We caught them all the way up until, I think, like June the 18th or something last year. But they're little, they're a pound or less. The really big ones, the 5, 6, 7 pounders, the 8 pounders, those are always going to be right now, the middle of April to the end of April, and they're basically going to only come on live bait. I don't know if we don't catch very many of those really big giant ones on anything but the live bait.
All right. So I guess what I'm going to do is we're going to give a little bit of lip service, since not everyone watching this or listening to this podcast has the ability to live bait fish. But I do want to talk about that. I want to talk about it in detail, actually. So what are you, man? If if I took live bait away and said, all right, you got to get there early or you got to get there late and not live bait, are you more a deep diver guy or are you more like a Clark spoon guy or something I'm not mentioning?
Both. Like tomorrow is a prime example. When I'm on the bird, on the bigger boats, I don't have obviously don't have a trolling motor. We can't live bait off of them. So my groups tomorrow are coming early. We're meeting at 5:30 in the morning. I'm going to try to get out there. I'm hoping because tomorrow's supposed to be extremely nice. So I know every center console, every bait boat and skiff is going to be out there. I'm hoping they're going to be on the beach trying to catch their bait till about 7 or 7:30. Hopefully, I can get out there at first thing, get my clients on some fish when those boats get in there because they're going to come in there and throw the spot lock down. With me trying to troll, it's just not going to work. I mean, I'm not going to be able to go over top of the wreck because they're going to be covering it up. So after that, I'll just move on inshore. Maybe the Spanish. You never know with the Spanish. They're either not going to be here, and then the very next day they will be. Maybe they'll be here tomorrow. I don't think so because the water we fished this evening, the water was only 62 this afternoon. It was 64 a couple of days ago. So for me personally, I'm gonna get right on the beach and get in that really shallow water and just try to catch my guys some bluefish on the way in because they're only 4 hour trips. Hopefully we can get a good solid 2 hours first thing in the morning, and then just try to pick away the blues coming back into the inlet on the way back to the dock. My second group, which will turn around, they're coming at 10. That group, I probably won't even bonito fish, period. I'll just kind of troll around in the inlet and I might hit it. It's going to be really nice. So I might work on out there towards the shoals and just see if those bonito, because they will disperse a little bit, and if I could get out there and find my own school, I can sit there and work on them until somebody else shows up. That's the main thing. If you don't have the live bait when them guys get there, just get away from everybody and try to find your own school. Because if you get your own school isolated, those fish will still eat. You can cast to them, or they'll eat those trolling plugs. They'll eat Clark spoons, little drone spoons, anything like that.
All right, let's go into the live bait fishing then, man. So if we're not on the Bertram, if I'm fishing with you on a center console and we're trying to target either late season bonito or the bigger bonito, like walk me through that process. Like, what does that look like on your boat, man?
It's so I've got both of my center consoles are fishing tomorrow. Their group's meeting them at 7. We'll let the sun come on up. Once that sun gets on up, you can see those pogies flicking. Right now, the shad on the pogies, menhaden, whatever you want to call them, bunker, whatever you want to call them, they're on the beach and there's a lot of them, but a lot of them are really big. You can't use those big, 7, 8, 9 inch ones like the ones you would king mackerel fish. Those bonito will eat them certainly, but you can't get a hook into them. So you've got to find those little ones. Most people call them peanuts. The ones that are about 4 or 5 inches long, 3 or 4 inches long. Once they find those, they'll fill up. They'll talk to each other on the phone, and then we have other friends that we'll work with. And once we find the right size bait, we'll all load our live wells up, and then they'll just head out there and drop the trolling motors in and just throw some overboard and kind of chum them up and keep them right around our boats. And that's how we'll fish for them with the live bait on the ARs.
So are you putting out 2 lines or 3 lines or?
It's really going to depend on how. I'm only going to speak from a charter group aspect. If I've got a bunch of people, I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but if I've got a bunch of people from Ohio and Illinois that have never fished in saltwater, really aren't fishermen, they're just here to have a good time and do something fun, maybe get their kids out on spring break, we'll probably just fish with 2 rods. If I'm out there with 5 of my buddies or 5 really, true hardcore fishermen, we'll probably each person will fish 1 rod, and there's going to be times when all 5 are hooked up. I mean, it's pretty insane when it starts going on. You're watching the fish just destroy those baits. To me, it's hands down the best and coolest inshore type of live bait fishing there is. I mean, there's just nothing like it.
Man, are you using, I guess you're just using scaled down king mackerel tackle. Is this like a 2 treble hook live bait rig or something else?
That's the key to it. If I'm fishing with my buddies, man, we just use 2,500 spinning reels like on trout, 10-pound line. We use 10-pound fluoro, and we'll use a small little treble hook when we're killing fish. After we get enough fish, that's one thing about bonito. I'm only going to say this for myself. Me and my buddies don't think they freeze very well. I've never been able to freeze and make it taste good. So we're only going to kill what we can eat and give away for 3 or 4 days. Because generally, me and even really most of my friends, my family, we eat it raw, either make poke or sushi out of it, or maybe we'll sear it. So if there's 3 or 4 of us and we want to keep about 15 fish, they're not big. A 4 or 5 pound bonito probably gives you 2 pounds of meat, maybe something like that. So say we want to keep 20 fish, we'll catch our first 20 on the treble hooks because generally they engulf when that treble hook gets down in there. When we know we're not going to kill any more fish, then we'll switch over to the circle hooks. And your hookup ratio probably gets cut in half, but you also aren't killing. I don't know what the statistics are, but I can't imagine too many fish that get treble hooks down in their gills or in their throat and stomach. Their survival rate can't be that good. So that's why we'll switch over to the circle hook. Same thing on the charters. Once we've killed what we're going to kill, we switch right back over and put those circle hooks on, and it just put it in the rod holder and wait till it's bent over. Especially with the circle hook, because you'll see them hit it. You'll watch the bonito come up and knock the bait right out the water, and sometimes he'll just that circle hook won't get him. Where that treble hook, he just engulfs it because they're so small.
Man, so to go to the trolling motor, you're just spot locking. You're holding position. You're not. Are you moving forward at all, like 1 mile an hour or anything like that?
No, most of the time we just go in there and put the spot lock down. Sometimes if there's not on a really nice day, man, there's going to be 50, 60, 70, shoot, even sometimes 100 boats out there on those reefs. You're not going to be able to do too much moving. If you go there when it's really rough and there's just a handful of us out there, a lot of times we won't even put the trolling motor in. We'll just kind of bump the big motor in and out of gear, kind of like when you king mackerel fish. The biggest key is just chumming them. Keep feeding them, and they're going to stay on your boat. They're not going to leave you.
Man, for someone who just isn't doing it nearly as much as you, when they get out there, are you spot locking like right over the AR, like on the edges of the AR? Are you trying different spots? Are you looking on your machine to see if you see fish before you spot lock?
A little bit of both. When because we fish every day. When they're here, we know where they're going to be. But if there's 25 boats sitting right on top, there's a big, I think it's called the Liberty ship. There's a big ship right on top of AR 315, and everybody thinks you've got to get right on that. So if we're catching up bait in the morning and we get out there and there's 25 or 30 boats on it, we'll just go off to one of the other pieces of structure. Once we start chumming those fish, we'll sit there and catch. They're not going to leave us. They're going to stay right there with us. And all those boats on the Liberty ship, if they're out there jigging or casting or just, that just blows their mind how we're sitting here catching them 5 and 6 at a time, and they're not catching them, period. I mean, at all. And that's just when that live bait gets on that reef and the boats have it, they're shutting that bite. The bite is going to just completely shut down for anybody who does not have that bait.
So I am of the frame of mind that people like specifics. So when you say, live bait chum, like what are we talking? A couple of nets full? Are we talking about putting like 30 fish over, 50 pogies over, like 15?
Maybe just taking a net and just chunking out 5 or 6 at a time, 8 or 9 at a time. And you're going to see the frenzy. The moment they hit that water, those bonito will be on them. I mean, and it's insane. And they just will not leave because I don't know why I guess they just know that you're going to keep giving them those pokies, and they just cannot resist them.
I guess, to finish this up, man, because, you describe it as pretty straightforward, like drag setting or any, like when you talk about clients and like, ways you have to coach them or mistakes they might make where you have to sort of steer them away. Is there anything in that area?
No, the biggest thing, if I'm fishing with customers, we use 3,500 spinning reels, and I think I've got 30-pound suffix on them, and then I'll even beef it up. We always use, this is live bottom. I grabbed the wrong one. This is 15-pound. We only use fluorocarbon. Even when we talk about trolling, the same thing. We only use fluorocarbon because the Sportsman's Wholesale is the same as Live Bottom. The Live Bottom is just the Sportsman's brand. They sell their fluoro nearly for the same price as a lot of stores will sell their regular mono. So there's no reason not to take advantage of it and just use the fluoro. But we'll go to 20 or 25 pound on the charters on the fluorocarbon and just tie it straight to the hook. I mean, it's nothing special about it. It's really the most simple fishing there is. You just have to have the You got to have the ability to catch the bait and know how to set up on the fish. That's the hardest part. I guess the hardest part is flat out just catching the bait, having live wells big enough to hold. We probably have 300 baits in our live wells when we go out there. If you go out there with just a dozen or 15 or 18, you're just, I mean, don't get me wrong, you're going to catch you a handful of fish, but you're just wasting time. You need to have, your live wells just slam full of nothing but pogies.
And I know this question can change on a day-to-day, year-to-year basis, but I'll ask it, and then we'll start talking about some Spanish mackerel and trolling and casting. But so for pogies, like in this time of period, like end of April, are most of them inlet, or most of them ICW, deep water, or are there most of them on the beach? Where you put your money?
Right now, like I said, our pogies just showed up 3 days ago. They're all on the beach. I haven't even gone and looked in the ICW or up in the creeks yet. We've got a couple of areas around the around the Moorhead area where we know that we can go get the little ones, the peanuts, pretty consistently. Once they get in there, we know every day we can go there, we can fill up our live wells with the little ones, and we can get on out to the reef. Tomorrow, both of my guys that are on the center consoles, they're going to be just riding up and down the beach, and they may have to go through 8 or 10 schools of pogies before they get the right ones, but they will find the right ones eventually.
All right, man. So as far as fish habit, like how long do Spanish and Bonito like cohabitate before the Bonito? And I know you said you picked at them here and there, but how long do they cohabitate before you start thinking, man, they're only going to cohabitate for a couple of weeks and then Bonito will move on. It'll be a Spanish show.
Can't honestly tell you we ever leave with the intention of catching both. When we start to live bait, we're strictly trying to catch the Bonito. And when the Spanish show up, then it's strictly back to trolling again, especially early in the year. Man, when them Spanish show up in May, they're long and skinny. I mean, you can almost see through them, but they will eat anything. And that's some of the most fun Spanish fishing you're going to have, especially the trolling, your Clark spoons and your Zuris and stuff like that. And there'll be Bonito sprinkled in there with them. But I don't think you're ever going to have a day at the end of the Bonito run, beginning of the Spanish, where you've got 40 or 50 Spanish and 40 or 50 Bonito. It just never works out like that. At least for us, it doesn't.
Okay, man. When you switch over, since this is the transition period, when you're switching over to Spanish fishing, you're first going to the troll, or you're hoping to see them. And I mean, I'm sure you enjoy casting to them. What's the mentality when you're early Spanish mackerel fishing?
We're going to if we're on the Bertrams, or if we're on the Bertrams, we're only going to troll until we see those fish just busting. And it's a really, really simple spread. We just pull. It's a number 2 and a number 1 plane. I'm sure everybody knows exactly what they are, but it doesn't even matter the brand. This is a Clark spoon. This is probably a Sea Striker. Number 1 and a number 2 planer. We'll run them right off the stern. I know everybody knows what a Clark spoon is. Personally, I think Clark spoons are the best for the mackerel, and I think drone spoons are better for the Bonito and the Bonito false albacore. I think you're going to catch more on a drone. This is my personal favorite. These are the Clark spoons. Not exactly what they're short, but I love them with that ball bearing, that barrel swivel up there in the front. That color is my personal favorite, and then that's my next favorite. And those will always be on our planers when we're Spanish fishing. Any of them, it doesn't matter. When those Spanish first show up, they'll eat anything. And then the drone spoons, these are used ones. They were out there hanging up to be rehooked. But the drone spoon, and you can see the difference. Let's see if I can find the same color. You can see the difference in them. The drone spoon is shorter and fatter, thicker, whatever the right word is. The Clark spoon is just longer and skinnier. For whatever reason, I can't think of it. There's not a better Spanish mackerel lure to troll than a Clark spoon, personally. We'll troll, and then on our long run, when we're on the bay boat, we'll run 3 rods, 2 on planers, and then I'll run 1 behind my right behind my seat on the long rigger, not the long rigger, but on the kind of like a shotgun bait. And we'll do the same thing straight from our rod and reel to just a regular, just a regular ball bearing snap swivel. On your leader, you tie another snap swivel the opposite direction, and you just clip them. In the middle, you'll go to a trolling weight. So you'll come from your main line to your trolling weight, from your trolling weight to another snap swivel, and then at the end, you'll just tie on whatever you want to pull long. We generally on the three, if we're pulling three rods, we'll pull these some type of minnow. These are Yozuris and these are Nomads. Both of them are equally as good. The Nomads, I mean, I don't know how well it shows up on camera. There's hardly even any paint left on this one, and it's only been pulled one day, and that was Bonito chewing on it. But the only problem I've had with the Nomads is you need to replace the that back right there, that split ring. We've had some big fish. I don't know if they were kings or Bonito, a false albacore. We've had that straightened out. We've never had them straightened out on these Yozuris. So just kind of remember that. There's the hooks on these Nomads are BKK hooks, and they are just fantastic. I mean, they're the sharpest hooks there is. So if you just take the time to replace that back snap swivel, I mean that back split ring, that's all. And that's how we run our bay boat. On the center console, it's kind of the same thing. We just run two planers right off the stern, and then we'll run two long baits. Same thing, run to your barrel swivel, your snap swivel to a trolling weight to a leader, and the same thing. We'll run these same lures, but we'll just run two of them. Just run a 4-bait spread, and that's ideally what we'll run basically for Bonito and Spanish. The bluefish are going to eat it. The false albacore are going to eat it. The small kings, when they get on the beach, they're going to eat it. I mean, you'll catch it. I mean, man, we've caught speckled trout, gray trout, black sea bass, grouper, anything you can imagine, cobia, red drum, anything that swims will eat that spread while you're right there on the beach.
Man, on the on the two planers, do you like the variety of having a number one and a number two just to give you a different depth coverage?
I do that more so we can turn. The hardest part and the biggest mistake a lot of people make is they'll try to turn on a dime, and you can't. If you take your number two, and a lot of people tend to do it differently than I do, I'll take my number two and run it longer that way. And another thing, we always run braid on your planers and run mono, or you can run braid up top, but run mono on your trolling weights and braid on your planers, because the braid will get those planers down deeper. But I'll run my number two longer because that puts it down deeper in the water, and then you run your number one. That way, when you turn the one, they're pulling. A lot of people don't. Sometimes they don't understand. But the planer's pulling like this, and that ring right there sits on the top. And when the fish bites it, he pulls it. Your Clark spoon will be this direction. When he bites it, it trips it, and that's what brings it up to the surface. So if you pull your two farther and your one shorter, when you do turn, they'll go over top of each other, and you'll avoid a lot of the tangles. But I don't care how good you set them. If you do a bunch of sharp turns, you're gonna put them together eventually.
And leader length from the planer to the lure.
I would say early, 15, 20 feet. Later in the year, when those fish get real finicky, 25, 30. I mean, there's days when they just are super picky, and we'll drop all the way down like to 15-pound leader, and we'll run 35, 40-foot leaders on them just because those fish have been messed with so long. You get the summer when it's, on those days when it's really calm and the sun's bright, and those fish can just see. They can see you can see your line very well. Another good thing about running fluoro instead of mono, the fluoro just disappears in the water much better than that mono does.
And what's your preferred speed?
I would say anywhere right around 5.5 to 7 knots. I guess like 6 to 7.5 miles per hour, roughly. And it doesn't matter if you start catching if you don't want to catch bluefish and you're picking away at nothing but bluefish. I would speed up. The slower baits, the bluefish are going to pounce on them quicker, more often than the Spanish do.
All right, and I guess my next question, I'm not sure how I'm going to ask this. We'll see. If we're focusing on early season Spanish, And you listed, sort of like when we sort of debriefed a little bit about the podcast, talking about inlets, beach, or ARs. So for early season Spanish, man, what's the mentality? What pushes you to one versus the other versus the other?
To me, when those fish first show up, and if I'm strictly talking out of Beaufort, we're going to come in, cut off that rock jetty right there at Fort Macon, and we're going to stay anywhere from 7 feet of water out to about 20. Kind of about the end of Oceana Pier, it's roughly 12 to 20, depending on where exactly you are. Early in the year, those fish are going to get in there, and they're going to eat anything. The area kind of straight off Fort Macon, rock jetting. We call it the lumps. If you look on your depth find, on your GPS, you'll see what look like lumps. I mean, the little sandbars, I guess you would call them in there. Those fish will get stacked up in there, and then your wind direction is going to dictate where the bait is. The bait's going to stay. The bait's going to hide from the wind. So depending on which direction, it's either going to be on the west beach or it'll be over there up against Shack, or it might be up, farther on down the shoals. And just once you figure out where your bait is with the wind direction, that's going to tell you where your fish are going to be. And I'm strictly talking Beaufort Inlet. I've never even fished down around Wilmington and Wrightsville or any of that. I cannot honestly tell you what wind direction or anything you would look for down that way.
Man, I think you make a great point, and I want to spend a little bit more time on it because it might not be as intuitive to others, again, watching or listening. So you're letting the bait dictate it, but the bait hides from the wind. So talk to me more about that so that I'm sure they understand.
Yeah, if strictly Beaufort, if you come straight out of Beaufort Inlet, we have Shackleford Banks right there on our left, which goes up to Barden Inlet, and then you have the seashore, and the shoals and all that on your left hand side as you go out the inlet. The right hand side would be what we call the West Beach. I mean, just simply because it is. I mean, that's to the west, and Shack is to your east, coming out the inlet. So if you have a southwest wind, which is predominantly what we'll have in the summertime, that wind's going to come straight down the beach, maybe from like the Emerald, like from Bogue Inlet. If most people are going to know what I'm talking about, it's going to blow down the beach. So it's going to blow your bait over there up against Shack. So if the bait's pushed up over there, that's where you're going to find your fish at. If exact opposite, like on a northeast wind or any sort of north wind, you're really not going to have any. It's not going to hurt your bait anywhere because the land knocks it down. Shack knocks it down. The West Beach, Atlantic Beach, those beaches knock that wind down. So then your bait's going to be anywhere. You're just going to have to find it. And if you find the bait, you find the fish. I mean, it's plain as that. Once you find them, then just stay on them. They're going to when those fish first show up, they're going to eat. I mean, they just can't help themselves. But later in the year, when they get messed with and picked on and picked at all year, just stay at them. When the tide's moving, they're going to eat. If it goes really good and goes slack, you're not going to pick away at a whole lot of span. You'll pick at them, but you're not going to really work on them on that slack tide. So either go do something else for a few hours, or just bide your time and pick at them, or plan your trip around the tide. Just make sure you're fishing while that tide's moving.
Man, is there anything, and again, I'm feeling this might not be a smart question. So what about help with finding like bigger Spanish, when you feel like you're stuck in a bunch of smalls? That's not early season. I think you already told us early season, you might get long fish, but skinny fish. And when is it that I can start thinking, man, I might catch a citation today?
Our biggest Spanish always come in the fall, August, September, depending, if we have a really good year, if that warm water sticks in till the end of September. For us, generally, our biggest ones, we go back to live baiting, but it's a totally different type of live baiting than the Bonito. But in the fall, you live bait them. That's when you're going to catch your giants. Now, you're still going to catch nice ones all fall. I mean, from the inlet right on the beach out to the ARs, on your Clark spoons, the minnows, like I was showing you earlier. These are going to produce much larger fish, especially in the fall, but you're not going to catch as many. And you're not going to catch as many, period, in the fall as you do in the spring, but you're going to catch a much better class of fish. The fall Spanish fishing to me is by far my favorite.
All right, let's spend some time talking about casting, and you can set this up, but let's talk a little bit about Bonito first. Again, I know this is coming in kind of later season, but let's be optimistic and say, man, we might find a school or two by ourselves, and we might see them feeding on the surface. So I guess first talk to me about what you like to throw, and then the process of approaching surface feeding fish.
All right. Well, with the bonito, when they first get here, and you're on those ARs, if they stop biting those troll baits, you're going to mark them, and you're going to have just amazing marks on your screen. Now you got to learn the difference in a bonito versus the structure. I mean, you got to be able to tell the difference in structure and fish, and then you got to be able to figure out what the black sea bass and the trout and all that are. But once you figure out where those bonito are, you can stop trolling and just drop jigs down to them. Now this is my company, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm just only pushing my company, but we only throw these precious metals. I mean, these are jigs that we came out with, and we just started making them last year. Um, Actually, our 1 year anniversary is coming up in about 2 weeks, and I think we sold 17,000 units just of these in our first year. These are the only jigs we use. We jig for them. You know, you'll vertical jig for the bonito early. When they're busting the surface, they'll be on the top. Just throw it out there and rip it through there as fast as you can. The 3/4 ounce is what we like to throw if they're on the surface. If you're going to drop them, the 1 ounce is better to drop it down, just because you get a faster sink rate. And it's the same way. Drop it to whatever depth you see the fish at. Try to get it maybe 8 or 10 feet below them, and bring it up pretty fast, and just move your rod tip a little bit. And when they're eating metal, which they're eating metal up until a few days ago, they were eating metal very well. I mean, we've probably done better on the metal than we have trolling in the past week and a half, 2 weeks.
All right. So, I mean, I'm following that, and I already had some questions lined up. I just wasn't sure. So I get it with the jigging and bring it up pretty fast. What about surface, man? Are you ripping it?
Yep, it's pretty much as fast as you can bring it through there. When you see them busting, just throw it right in the middle of them, throw it out past them. But as long as you bring it through there, when they're reacting to the metal, I mean, they can't resist them. And the biggest thing, color, when those fish are really in a frenzy, I don't think it matters what color you throw in there. It's more going to matter the way the lure comes through the water and the size of it. There's nothing to me more important than size. We pulled up on some fish just a couple days ago, and I had some guys on the boat. They were pretty good fishermen. They knew how to cast pretty well. They could put the jigs pretty much where they wanted. I mean, there was probably 10 or 15 boats out there. We were catching 5 fish every time they would bust, and the other boats weren't. And I got to looking around at them, and man, they were throwing baits that were huge. I mean, 6, 7, 8, 9 inch long huge baits. I don't even know what the thought process was of that. But you've got to throw it, and you see what they're eating. Most of the time, they're busting silver. The little clear glass minnows, little silver sides, the ones you can kind of see through with the stripe in the middle of them. Generally, that's what they're eating. And if they're eating 2 inch long silver sides, throw the smallest, the 3/4, and we also have a 1/2 ounce that we've just come up with. That'll be our next order. Should be coming in the next couple weeks. Probably by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be out in stores. Throw the smallest bait out there that you can and just bring it through it. Just match the size of it is to me, the biggest, most important thing. And don't run them over, man. There's nothing worse than if you're sitting there working on a pile of busting fish and a boat or two just comes and gets right in the middle of them. That'll just shut it down instantly. I mean, that'll shut the whole bite down.
All right. So my question one, I'll say, man, I appreciate you sort of giving that disclaimer about this is your company and you're not wanting to come across as just pushing your own product. Man, we feel you, but I do want to ask about that though. Like, all right, there's several metal choices out there. Like, what was the approach with yours? Like, what did you want to do different? What was the variation that made your lure necessary?
My partner is Tim Still. Most people have probably heard of Beach Bum Lures. And before I even moved to North Carolina, it wasn't even called Beach Bum Lures. Tim was literally just pouring lead in his garage and painting them. And I saw him on Facebook one day, or saw him somewhere. I'm assuming it was Facebook. And I contacted him and I said, I'm coming to Carolina this weekend. I want to buy some. And man, they work. This was more, to be honest, I was really using them just for sea bass and snapper and stuff. And they were just awesome. So I called them, and then you could Tim would make any custom color you wanted. So I called him and told him, I said, man, pour me some 6 ounces. We'll go try them out, man. First time I took them out, we just burned the amberjacks and grouper and the American reds up on them. More and more, I'd call them and tell them certain colors, and we would try certain things. And it was just every time he made them, they were awesome, and they held up. A lot of lures, once they, for one, you're bouncing them off of rocks, and if you've got bonito, Spanish, bluefish, anything with a bunch of teeth, they just don't hold up the way that they're made. Our lures, as well as Tim's lures, are all hand painted, and then they're coated with this certain type of epoxy. I'm not going to tell exactly how it's done, but ours are all painted and then coated, and that's what makes ours last. We've got jigs that we'll catch 60, 70 fish on, and there's maybe one or two little teeth marks in it, where the other ones just come apart. You'll just have a piece of lead there at the end. We use nothing but really quality stainless steel hooks. You're going to have to replace a hook. Obviously, if you catch lots of fish, they are going to get dull. So you're either going to have to sharpen them or replace them. But we've never had a hook in our 1 year precious metal, and in Tim's probably 3 or 4 years of beach bums. I don't think we've ever had a hook break, which a lot of other jigs won't. They just won't hold up to those, especially the albacore and the bonito. I mean, they're essentially small tuna pulling on a half ounce, 3/4 ounce jig. It's a lot of torque on those jigs to hold up to that. And I can just tell you, our precious metal jigs hold up to it. They hold up extremely well.
All right, man. We have basically come to the end of the podcast, and I usually, use a wrap up question. I'm going to do the same for you, but I guess the setup is, man, in May, for my anglers that have listened to the podcast, seen the podcast, and want to go out in May for shots at bonita, or Spanish, man, what is the final thought, man? If you're trying to set people up for success, man, any last words of advice or consideration, anything that might give them an advantage in first half of May, trying to put a fish in the boat?
Just get there early. The biggest thing I can tell people is to get there early. The Spanish and the bonito both are going to bite best first thing in the morning, especially later on. I know we're talking about May right now, but especially June and July, August, when it gets really hot, and we're only talking Spanish then. Get there early, but troll for them, and then if you see the fish busting, have your spinning rods ready, pull your other stuff in, and just get on them as fast as you can. The biggest advice I can tell you is use as light a line as you're comfortable with, that you can make really long casts. Don't run the fish over. That's the hardest thing. That when you're trolling, if you see a bunch of charter boats out there and they're all fishing together and they're in a circle, we've kind of got those fish herded up, corralled, whatever the right word would be. I'm generally talking about Spanish now. Fall in line with us. Follow us around in that circle, and you're only going to pick them off on the port or on the left or right side, whichever side is where those fish are. But you're going to pick a couple fish off, and you'll be able to keep those fish in there eating. If you see a bunch of boats in there fishing in a circle, and then one or two boats just runs right through the middle of them, that's it. Those motors are just going to shut those fish right down. Stay out of the busting fish is the best advice I can tell anybody for Spanish, bonito, albacore, bluefish, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. Stay out of the middle of them and just work the outside edge of them.
All right, man. Well, Captain Jason Temple of Alley Cat Sport Fish in Morehead City, Atlantic Beach area, man, I've enjoyed our talk about bonita and Spanish in the early season, the transition period. And yeah, man, I can say, you know what I got to do? I've caught bass and snapper on precious metals, so now I got to put bonita and Spanish on my list for precious metals.
Yeah, definitely. And then one other thing, we do troll them as well. I didn't even mention that, but you can troll them behind the boat. We keep them on spinning rods ready, but a lot of times, especially people that will pull a mackerel tree or something, a mackerel trees, most people know what I'm talking about. They got 3 or 4 hooks, kind of like a straw on it, and then you put a bait at the end. We almost always put one of the precious metals at the end of it, and you'll have there's days you'll have all 4 of them. The precious metal and the 3 mackerel trees will all get eaten at one time.
Well, Jason, man, I've enjoyed talking fishing with you. I look forward to fishing with you again this year. I look forward to the next time we talk fishing, man. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you sharing your expertise.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. All right. David Harden.
Gary Hurley.
other than confirming that you shouldn't drive through the middle of the Spanish like you've been known to do in the
No,
past.
I tell you, I've seen people who do that, and it never goes good for
Never?
them.
You've never done it?
I've never done
You've
it.
never been anxious and been
I've
like,
seen
I
people
just need
do
a
it,
fish.
and the names that you get called on the radio, we can't say on the
You know,
podcast.
I have a polygraph tester I bring to my surf tournaments. I might have to bring you and ask you about your Spanish mackerel habits on that.
No. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about the takeaway. My takeaway was with the late season bonito. Once they start eating live bait, that's what they want to. That's what they want to eat. And I thought it was good. Jason made a good point about the 4 to 5 inch pokies that you want. You don't want the real big ones. You just want the little ones. So that was my takeaway.
Yeah, and some people don't have the mentality of throwing a net or two full of pokies out there just to stir them up. Like they think, well, if they eat that bait without a hook, then I have a less chance to catch it with a hook. But as Jason will tell you, and others will tell you, man, you're live bait chumming, man. You're getting them excited, and then you put your bait out with a hook, and then it's showtime.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I'm ready to go.
Me too, man. I'm ready to go too.
Let's thank our sponsors.
Please.
We got Port City Signs and Graphics, yourboatmoney.com, and Marine Warehouse Center.
Yeah, man, 3 great organizations. We're fortunate to be paired with them, and there's a reason we're paired with them all, man. They're great people, great companies. And again, another plug for our membership content. If you're a fan of the podcast and you want early podcast access, if you want bonus podcast content, or if you want our weekly fishing reports delivered in audio and video format. And then I didn't even mention before the More Fish video library, where we release school videos from our 2 popular fishing schools in the February winter months. All premium content membership. Go to fishermanspost.com for more details.